We are emerging from behind the white curtain. We sing, we play, and we compose the music that must be, is being heard with ears that would not hear before. Welcome to Classical Music in Color, a look into the BIPOC community of classical musicians. I'm Judelin Lilly. Thank you for tuning in to the September 2023 edition of Classical Music in Color. We're at the beginning of the fall performing arts season, so there is much to talk about this month. There's a new program in Austin for Latinx opera composers, the poet T.S. Eliot and pianist Pratt. He combines the two for some new music on Pratt's latest album, Still Point. Aaron P. Dworkin debuts his first spoken word album, Poet Journalist. There's a leadership opportunity at the Delaware Symphony Orchestra and a couple of competitions you won't win if you don't enter. And there's a bit more. It's like he was Nick Fury in the Marvel movies, gathering all the classical super composers for a musical mission. It turned out to be Still Point. That's the name of pianist Pratt's new album.
At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point, there the dance is.
When Pratt contemplated this album, he said he was looking for the music to reflect the still point in our lives.
So Still Point, there's 7 composers that were commissioned to write for me in combination of either solo piano, piano and strings, or piano, strings, and the vocal ensemble Roomful of Teeth.
He used T.S. Eliot's poem, The Four Quartets, as a jumping-off point for the composers.
4 quartets, the chapter Burnt Norton, that revolve around this, at the still point of the turning world. Essentially, there the dance is, and there's only the dance. So Jesse's piece was part of that commissioning project.
Jesse's piece, as in Jesse Montgomery, is called Rounds. It's a bit long for full play here on Classical Music in Color, so I chose the last track on the album. It's called Still Point. You'll hear the voices of A Roomful of Teeth singing the music composed by Judd Greenstein, and of course, Pratt on the piano. Still Point, composed by Judd Greenstein and performed by Awadagin Pratt. Other composers on the album, other than Jesse Montgomery, are Paolo Prestini, Alvin Singleton, Peteris Vasks, and Tyshawn Sori. Another new album out this month is from Aaron P. Dworkin. You know the name. He's the founder of the Sphinx organization. That's the Detroit-based arts organization transforming lives through the power of diversity in the arts. The Poet Journalist is his debut spoken word album. It features 27 tracks highlighting African American history, arts and culture, women, health of the mind, and childhood. Here he is performing one of his poems, They Said I Wasn't Really Black. He performs it and the rest of the album without music, so the music you'll hear is what I added to this mix. Aaron P. Dworkin performing They Said I Wasn't Really Black.
They said I wasn't really black. Born from white and brown young skins, I was so different from the pack. Adopted by Caucasians at just 2 weeks of age, they couldn't have known about the other people. They said I wasn't really black. A violinist I was destined for. Early on, I showed them the knack. It was Mozart for me and Beethoven too. I never got to memorize Jackson 5 lyrics, so they said I wasn't really black. School bells and cafeteria food, I sat there with my brown lunch sack. There was no fried chicken in my Ziploc bag, no confrontation between watermelon and black-eyed peas. They said I wasn't really black. I'd stroll into the rehearsal room, wishing I was the Daddy Mac. I didn't even go to the games, let alone sport the jersey. Hell, I wasn't even in the band, and I wonder why they said I wasn't really black. I didn't talk the talk and couldn't walk the walk. Familial precedent I did lack. At first it seemed correct by design. It took me years till I was uncomfortable when they said I wasn't really black. There were those who made me feel different and a few who I thought had my back. I could have taken all the racial slurs if only it wasn't my friends around when they said I wasn't really black. All I sought was acceptance. Any click shell I could not crack. They feared the anomaly. Too bad for me that I got good grades. Couldn't play spades 'cause they said I wasn't really black. Then it settled down on me, waiting unease upon my back. Like the line and rhyme of these words I write, I had only just begun to fight when they said I wasn't really black. The first African queen I was to know drew me in like the sweet lilac. She shut those doors, supposedly wanted more, but I knew the reason behind, because they said I wasn't really black. For a time I had an afro. It should have got me on the track. Foolish me to think they'd see what I wanted to be. Why did they all have to agree? My skin was just a racial D. Hopelessly, eventually, they said I wasn't really black. I'm glad I found out that they were wrong. I ain't born in Uncle Tom's shack. I guess they wish the color was not what it is, but what they wanted it to be when they said I wasn't really black. I have come to terms with what I cannot fight. I yearn no longer to attack. The title I sought without emerged from within. There was serenity and complacency when impervious to chagrin, while they said I wasn't really black. Every moment I burst with pride. I toss a memory in my sack. Their jibes ebb like the tide as I open the floodgates wide. It was quite a ride. Over now, save the rare aside. I wish I wouldn't have cried. I kinda hope they lied when they said I wasn't really black.
They Said I Wasn't Really Black, written and performed by Aaron P. Dworkin. Once again, none of the tracks on his album, Poet Journalist, are accompanied by music. This was a mix from me, with music composed by Oleg Kurilko. Many of you may not have heard of Malachi Bio. He's a 2023 finalist for Britain's Got Talent. Hear him now. This is Benedictus, composed by Carl Jenkins, one of the tracks on Malachi's debut album, Golden. After his exposure on Britain's Got Talent, Universal Music signed him to a record deal. Golden was released on Universal Classics and Jazz. The 14-year-old says his dream has come true, to be signed to a record company with the biggest opera stars in the world. You'll also be able to hear Malachi sing in the upcoming movie, Maestro. It's about the life of Leonard Bernstein, starring Bradley Cooper. Listen to this. Is from the opera Cruzar la cara de la luna, or Crossing the Face of the Moon. It's considered the world's first mariachi opera, composed by Jose Pepe Martinez and Leonard Foglia. It's the first time Austin Opera is presenting a Spanish-language opera. It opens in February of next year. This year marks the first time Austin Opera is inviting Latinx opera composers to develop their works. It's called Opera ATX Residency for Latinx Creatives. Annie Burridge, Austin Opera General Director and CEO, says this unique workshopping space will ultimately extend the scope of operatic storytelling. Here's how it got started.
We were in kind of the final round of discussions with the Andrew Mellon Foundation about supporting a residency here at Austin Opera, specifically for Latinx creators, so composers and partners, typically librettists. Andrew Mellon changed their funding priorities. They had some new leadership come into the organization, but through the process of talking to them, we had identified such a clear need for institutions to offer opportunities to advance and really champion the works of Latinx creators. There are very few works in Spanish or works that are representative of storytelling from South America or Latin America that are circulating in North America right now. So there's a huge need. And we also have a lot of assets here at Austin Opera, just in terms of our personnel. I worked at Opera Philadelphia, where I got to be around a ton of commissioning activity. Nathan DePoint, our chief producing officer, has a ton of commissioning and workshop experience. And Timothy Myers, our music director, has conducted a huge number of world premieres. And so we've got this expertise, even though we aren't a company that's quite large enough to be doing huge scale commissions on our own, we do feel that we have something to contribute to really helping advance, and as I said, help champion these incredible creatives and their projects. And so we just proceeded with a version of the program that we could do with our own resources that isn't dependent on a national grant appearing, although we do hope that happens someday, because we could certainly increase the size and the scope and the impact of that program. But so we invited first round applications, And we are absolutely blown away by the incredible quality and the passion and just the brilliant stories from these very talented composers and their writing partners that have come through. It'll be very difficult to just choose one in this first year. We're hoping we can become involved in many of the projects, even if they can't be part of the residency that we'll have here. But we will choose one in the next few weeks, and we'll workshop that opera with those creators here in Austin this season, as well as work with them remotely on advancing the piece. But we're also starting to understand, with the incredible quality of submissions that we received, that we can also play a really important role in the opera industry, just in terms of promoting these incredible creatives that are out there that are passionate about this type of storytelling. So we're so excited to get started this season and to really kind of establish ourselves as a company that believes strongly in the development of this repertoire. And we want to see more and more of it circulating in our stages in North America.
Burridge says while Austin Opera won't be producing the opera developed in the workshop because of financial concerns, there will be a place for the work on their digital channel, Live from Indy Terrace.
Yes, and we also hope to have a public workshop at the end of the residency here in Austin. That will be up to the creators, of course, if they feel that that's a good next step in the project. But we do hope to welcome as many Austinites and Austin Opera enthusiasts into the process as well.
This is the first year for the Austin Opera ATX residency for Latinx creatives. Austin Opera does have plans, says Burridge, to open applications in the spring for the second group. Now, we can't leave this portion of the show without giving you a short listen to another piece from Cruzar La Cara de la Luna. This is Siempre Estoy Aquí. I am always here. This performance is from the Houston Grand Opera. The Delaware Symphony Orchestra has announced they are searching for their next music director. The current one, David Amato, has been appointed the music director laureate. They say it's going to be a 2-year search to find the right person. The call for applications closes on September 29th. If you're interested in specific information, look for a link on the Classical Music in Color page on secondstreetdreams.com. The Symphonia Foundation out of San Diego has issued a call for composers from around the world to submit their work. It has to be original and unpublished to win the Best Symphonia of the Year award. You are listening to Symphonia No. 1, composed by Dr. Dan Fogel, who originated the competition. He says he's looking to engage more young people in composition and performance. The winner will receive a $2,000 prize. The deadline to enter is December 1st. This next one is out of South Africa and is open to anyone around the world. It's the 50th anniversary of the National Arts Festival's curated program in Makhanda, Eastern Cape, South Africa. That's in June of 2024. They're inviting producers and creative practitioners working across different disciplines and genres to apply. Their theme for this is works that speak across time. This could be works that mark important milestones in South African cultural history, or works that speak to where we are going and what that future could look like. The deadline to apply is September 30th. For our coda this month, a little taste of who's playing what and by whom this month and next. The Harlem Chamber Players start with Dreams and Prayers of Isaac the Blind on September 21st. It's from the words of Isaac the Blind, a rabbi from Provence from 800 years ago. It includes the music of Rihanna Giddens and Coleridge Taylor Perkinson, among others. Near Las Vegas, the Henderson Nevada Symphony is performing the score to the 2018 Black Panther movie while the film is playing. It's a free concert on September 29th. The Alexandria Symphony Orchestra in Virginia, just outside of D.C., has planned a not-so-traditional season of music. In celebration of their 80th year, they're opening on September 30th with composer Quinn Mason's Toast of the Town. He is the young African-American composer from Texas who's burning up the classical music scene with his music. And in November, Native American composer Don Avery makes a connection between Alexandria's own Native history and Dvorak's exploration of Native and African American musical styles with the piece Chisin Akomako. And there's still time to sign up for the 5th annual Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. It's in Baltimore on October 21st and 22nd. And as always, all the links are on the Classical Music in Color page on secondstreetdreams.com. This is the Second Street Dreams audio network, emerging beyond the white curtain. Thank you for listening to the September 2023 edition of Classical Music in Color. I'm Jude Lynn Miller.